was in a time when I was having a lot of surgery as a kid, about 9 years of age. And there was this absolutely delightful priest by the name of Father Belanger, who delighted the kids. He was, had he not been, I mean, if you can kind of imagine Robin Williams as a priest, you start to get what it was like to be with Father Belanger. He was funny, he was witty, he loved practical jokes, and there were a lot of very, very sick kids on the ward. I mean, in a sense, I was just having surgery. Once the surgery is done, healing occurs, and then you go home. There were a lot of kids who, you know, either didn't go home or they were there for the long, long term. He knew the difference between the two, and he would never do anything that would jeopardize a kid's health. But they were just practical jokes, etc. And so we just loved it when he came onto the floor. But there was one time, I can't even, I think it was 1959. It was, I was about 9 years of age, and I had been going through some quite painful surgery. And he did not typically come down to the ward at night, but he did that night. And I remember clearly that he came into the room. I was shocked to see him, actually, surprised that he was there at the nighttime. It was pouring rain. I was, you know, not feeling very good at all. And he came in, he said to me, "So, how are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Oh, Father, not very well. Not very well," you know. And he said, I'm just a lot of pain. And now he, you know, he knew what the medical charts were and everything. And he said, "Well, do you know where I've just come from?" I said, "No, where?" And he said, "Well, I've just come from a gentleman's room about 2 floors above you here, and he just died." And he said, "You know what? You're not going to die. Not tonight, and not for a long, long time." That's about all he said. He didn't have to say anything else. It just put everything in that moment into a totally different perspective. And it's something I've literally never, ever forgotten. So, was he a mentor in the traditional sense of being that person of the constant presence in your life, or a regular ongoing presence? No, not really. He was there for about a 2-week period in 1959, and another 2-week period in 62, and another week or 2 long period in 1963, and then that was it. Never saw him again. But I thought, you know, just think of the countless people that he touched, and they would recognize him as a priest, as a minister, but for many, many people, they would think back to moments like that, as I do, and say, wow, that's what I needed to hear at that very moment. And I think that's one of the keys about being a mentor. It is that ability, or that willingness, to say to somebody what they need to hear at that particular moment, whether it was the high school principal, or in that particular instance, you know, a visit to a kid in a hospital.